Yo, Grand Rising, everybody. Grand Rising, how you doing? This is your coach Renz, and we are live today outside in the backyard in paradise. Cause Angie kicked me out, y'all. I just had to say that just because. Welcome to Why I Left Religion with Coach Renz, and today we're going to talk about Mormonism. Yeah, but we're going to give about 5 minutes for people to get on. So if you find me for the first time, just skip on to about 5 minutes. It'll be great. I did invite this one person to come to the show today. I hope they will come and oblige us. But since I was told that I don't know nothing about the history of Mormonism, we're going to talk about that. But the main thing is I don't even understand how how a black person can be Mormon. Knowing the history of this thing, I mean, I have difficulty understanding how any black person can be Christian. But Mormon? That's like a black person being a member of the KKK. Just not getting it. Oh, I don't get it. But we're going to talk about this today. Took me a little bit longer to get started today because, as you see, I had to move everything to be outside because Angelina kicked me out, y'all. She kicked me out. She told me I had to go outside. She said I had to go outside. I didn't want to go outside, but Angie made me come outside, y'all. Angelina made me come outside. That's not necessarily the truth, but that's what I'm sticking with. Grand Rising Christian. I really hope this Mormon gentleman will try to come on. Oh, wait, he responded. Oh, good God, he wrote a whole letter. Why do people write these whole big letters? Like, do y'all really? Okay, let me go ahead and say something. If you write a big, long ass diatribe, I don't read it. So the person who questioned my whole knowledge of the history of Mormonism wrote all this. I'm not reading all that. And this is after I invited him 25 minutes ago to come on to the show. Robert, if you're listening, come on. Grand Rising Donald, Grand Rising Trauma. But Mr. Wilkinson, if you're listening, you're more than invited. You're more than invited to come onto the show. If you probably have never seen any of my videos or shows beyond the one that talked about Mormonism, but if you have, then you know that I'm very fair when it comes to having guests on the show. I give you your opportunity to speak and all those sorts of things. But all this long writings of no. And I think that most people, let me not say that. More than welcome to come on. Since you posted this 6 minutes ago, then you may be aware that I'm on live, and I told you that I was going live. So it'd be great to have you on, because I do understand the psychosis of people and how they fall into religion and get stuck in religion, and then your grandparents teach you, and so on and so forth. I don't want to get into the history part until we get to our 5-minute mark, but I do understand that psychosis. But I cannot understand how people continue in it. It's just like earlier, I was going through some of my comments, and on the one video I did about African spirituality, African girl said that, when non-Africans speak on African spirituality, it makes her cringe. And I go through, people don't realize I'm going to go through your page. I'm going to look you up. You're Catholic in Uganda. You know your ancestors. You know the history. You still got, you know your ethnicity. How you still Catholic? You know what I'm saying? And make it. Of course, I'm gonna do that as a video a little bit later, but I don't get it. Grand Rising Orion. Mm-hmm. I just really don't understand that. I mean, I understand it, but I don't. It's laziness to me, or something is. I'm not. It's it's one of those things that it's like it's right there in your face, y'all. It's right there in your face. I'm not getting it. I'm not. It just don't make sense. It just don't make sense. Grand Rising Renee, how you doing? J.R. Walker, Grand Rising. No accountability needs, just someone to blame it on. I'm just trying to understand it. So today, God dang it. So, hold on. One of the challenges of being outside. This is cranberry juice. Thank you very kindly. So I want y'all talking about me. Well, not y'all talking about me. Just to make sure YouTube and Facebook don't demonetize me. It's cranberry juice. Now, you know I'm on a list. You know, I think it was a Jehovah Witness that first told me that they have a list of people who houses that they don't go to because they deem them to be, you know, not just an apostate, but something worse. And then I had two little Mormon boys tell me I was on the list. When they came up and came to my house when I was in East Cobb, and they was like, I told them my name. Oh, we can't talk to you. I was like, whoa, how y'all know me? Yeah. But Amy, I live in Utah and have said this for years. Gladys Knight. Amy. Amy. I gotta tell you, when I found out that Gladys Knight was Mormon, I was like, this is all the bullshits. I just can't even hear her music the same way. I can't even hear her music the same way no more. This is not yak trauma. I ain't no hint of nothing. How do you get on the list? The only thing I can say is that I used to invite them into the house and I would debate them, and many walked away questioning. And then I have had some Jehovah Witness and Mormons later come back to me and said that they left the church or the organization after we had talked. Well, you know, we had talked and then they mulled it over for a while, but they came back and said, so I'm guessing, I'm assuming it is because of that. Black Americans are running to African spirituality and Africans are running away from it. You got a point there, JR. You got a point there. JR, who shot JR? But you got a point. You got a very valid point. That is interesting how so many Black Americans are looking to become or involve themselves in African spirituality. And Africans are just like straight up just Christian, demonizing it like a champ. Catholic African. Oh, Catholic girl in Uganda, beautiful young lady, gonna sit up there and tell me that she cringes. I cringe at the fact that you live in Uganda, born and raised, know your ancestors, and you decide that you want to stay Catholic. You know what they did to your country. You want to stay Catholic. But that's not the subject matter for today. Today we're talking about the Mormons. You see, Mr. Robert Wilkinson, and don't harass Mr. Bob Wilkinson, but Mr. Wilkinson decided that he was going to tell me that it is very apparent on my video about the Mormons that I don't know anything about the history of the Mormons. Here's the thing about it. When was the last time I studied Mormonism? That would have been in around about 2003 was the last time I paid attention to Mormonism. What? Y'all know, if you've been with me long enough, you know I'm a quick study. I'm a quick reminder of myself. Like all I need is a few things to light the fire, and all of a sudden, the memory banks start clicking. So after watching my Hawks get defeated last night, hurt my feelings, but I saw some good things in it. I started going back and reading a few things about Mormonism and how he was saying that I was incorrect in some of my statements. And he has a point on a couple of things. He has a point on one of the things he said. He said your characterization of blacks is not doctrine of the church. You do not know what you're talking about. You haven't studied the history of the church. I will say this, prophets. No, wait, that's after that part. So he said it's not doctrine, but I'm going to show you how they were saying that this was the will of their God. This is the will of God. And he also said you haven't read the Book of Mormon and your knowledge of Joseph Smith. Now, right, I have not read the entirety of the Book of Mormon because I didn't see the point. And your knowledge of Joseph Smith is lacking, to say the least. Joseph ordained several black men to the priesthood in an environment of slavery. Brigham Young made policies that were never the doctrine of the church. I'm going to show you that that's not true. The saying that blacks are less valiant is a fable that permeated the church until 1978. He's at least honest about that. And many members look forward to the day that blacks could have the same blessings of membership. That's just like saying a whole bunch of Northerners wanted to abolish slavery, but yet they were still racist as hell. So let's dig into this. Into it. The characterization of blacks is not doctrine of the church. And true, I have not read the Book of Mormon in its entirety. But now understand the Book of Mormon also, they have the Book of Abraham. So they wrote some of their own books. And as far as knowledge of Joseph Smith, did Joseph Smith ordain some black men in the priesthood? He did. He did ordain a couple, about 3, 4 of them, into the priesthood. So I'm going to give him that one. But y'all know there's always more to the story, right? Did he ordain a few black men into the priesthood? He did. Did they receive endowment? Were they ever sealed? They were never sealed nor endowed. And I know for us non-Mormons, what does that mean? To be sealed or endowed? Well, there are certain ceremonial things that they go through as far as being sealed or endowed that allows for the person, hold on, let me get there, that allows for the person to become more eternal. Like there's the marriage sealing. The sealing in marriage is that you and your spouse become the celestial marriage. And that means that you will be married forever, right? And in being married forever, you also produce more children and have hold of the planet, as some of the teachings of Mormonism go. To be sealed or endowed mean that you're going to go through this. You get to go through this washing and anointing ceremony, where then you get these robes that you wear under your clothes all the time, day and night. But you receive this special washing and anointing for that. So it's like they became priests, but they were only priests for earth. In heaven, they're not. But also part of this sealing, endowment, and all these things, get this. And Robert, please Please don't even try. They would teach that you will become, if you were black, you will become white and delightsome in heaven if you go through all this process. That if you make it to heaven, you come white and wholesome and delightsome. I don't know why they use that word delightsome, but delightsome. Mm-hmm. Oh, I pulled up some notes because it's just too much to remember on this one occasion for this. But there was this one woman, Jane Manning. I believe 34 times she petitioned for her to be sealed or to get the endowment. Told her no, 34 times. Now he talks about, I don't know my history on this is what Joseph Smith said. He said that black and white people would be better off if they were separate but legally equal. He once stated that had I anything to do with the Negro, I would confine him by strict law to their own species and put them on a national equalization. Come on now. This man trying to tell, like Joseph Smith, sometimes he was for slavery, sometimes he was not for slavery. He supported candidates like Lincoln. Um, he he thought that he shouldn't get involved in the matters of slavery as well. That if a slave owner, um, yeah, matters as well. Now I'm not sure if it's him or Brigham Young, but one of the two or both of them thought that they shouldn't encourage slave. They should encourage slaves to be satisfied with their life situation. Now, and that he was wholly, both of them, wholly against interracial marriage. Brigham Young to the point where he said that he believed that interracial marriage would cause mass sterilization in the white people. Right? That that's what he believed. He refused. He banned. Now, Brigham Young straight up banned black people from gaining the priesthood. And it wasn't just Brigham Young then. This was continued. 1930s, 1940s, all the way up to 1978. All the way to 1978. And what was the reason in 1978? Money. The church thought that they were in jeopardy of losing their tax exempt status. So they lifted the ban on black priesthood. And you had breakoffs from that. You had what became known as the fundamentalist Mormon church, who are still upholding the teachings, the previous teachings. My thing again, y'all can just go and find an article or a brief, a white paper or a PhD paper on Mormonism, and or even a summary of it, and you'll see so much information about how they treated, how black people were treated in this religion. Uh, so here's the idea of it. The Mormon Church used to teach up to 1978, and really still was having issues. Still in 1978, didn't like apologize or retract or say that those were wrong teachings, but they really didn't do that until around 2013 is when they said that these teachings were wrong. And even in 2020, uh, they still had pamphlets in Brigham Young that was teaching what I'm about to say about the black skin, the problem with the black skin, right? So we this what I'm about to tell you They really didn't get rid of this until 2020. Because when you still got pamphlets in your schools that still teach this in 2017, where's the problem? You still expelling people, teachers and stuff like that, because they're still teaching these things. There's still a problem in your church. So that's why I'm not understanding why any black person is Mormon. But look at him. This is what they used to teach. They said that the first they got three main things that they teach of why black people are cursed. Right? Just understand that. Three main things why black people are cursed. One, because he said that when Jesus and Lucifer went to war against each other, and this is pre-earth, that the angels who didn't choose either side, the fence setters, as they call them, that they weren't valiant. They didn't have any honor. They weren't valiant enough. So they were cursed to be black on earth. Then they say that the mark of Cain, was the black skin. That's where I heard that they believe we were white at first. Yeah, all in heaven, everybody was white. Pre-earth, everybody was white. That God made only white angels, and those white angels, then Lucifer and Jesus were brothers. They was trying to decide how earth was going to be ran. Jesus said free will. Lucifer said no free will. And they warred. Then Yahweh went with Jesus' side of the fence, because and then Yahweh went with Jesus' side, which Yahweh had a bunch of wives too, just by the way. And then so Yahweh went with Jesus' side. Lucifer got mad, convinced a whole bunch of angels to fight with him. Jesus got his army together, but the ones who were fence setters, they would turn black while everybody else was white, right? Now, that story does get a little bit of a change in the I think it's 1940s, somewhere around in there, where a dude says that Satan is the father of all black-skinned people. Now, they also say that the mark of Cain, when he killed Abel, was black. That his skin turned black. And all the children, matriarchally, and they use the matriarchal because they do a patriarchal lineage that they wouldn't allow black. That's another thing. They made some black priests, but they wouldn't give them the patriarchal lineage as well. So it's like, I'm going to let you work here, but you don't get any benefits. Everybody else, all the white people work here, they got health benefits. They get lunch breaks. They get pay raises. They get a car to take home. They get a monthly stipend. I'm gonna let you work here, black man, but you don't get none of those benefits. You don't get a stipend. You don't get a car. You don't get any of those things, right? So this was their mindset. So the curse of Cain. Then they would say the other reason was that the curse that Noah placed on Canaan, because even though Ham was the offender, even though to me Noah was the offender, Ham was the offender, but Canaan got the punishment through the matriarchal lineage. Again, black people are the curse. Black people receive the curse. That's what that black skin represents. It represents that curse. So this is why they say they can exclude black people from priesthood for so long, and why black people, at a certain time, they couldn't be deacons, they couldn't be a lot of things. Now, of course, it all changes, but they certainly were saying that these, and this is where Robert was saying that this was not doctrine. That's bullshit. It was doctrine because the church was all saying that this is the will of God. Every time their church leader comes out with a revelation, it is said to have come directly from God. But because they believed in these things of Cain and Canaan, and the whole fight in heaven, these things they would claim is the will of God. So when he says that it wasn't doctrine, that's them trying to go back and change it now, trying to make it fit today's paradigm so that it doesn't look as bad. Just go ahead and this is my thing. Um, if Mr. Wilkins and any other Mormons ever watch this video, there's nothing wrong with saying that my religion was all kind of effed up, that they were products of their environment, that yes, this is what they taught, but now we realize how wrong those teachings were. Just admit it. That's all you gotta do. And then move on. And say that all that was trash. But I know the hard part is that if you say that that's trash, then you might have to say the rest of your religion is trash. That if you didn't have it right in the beginning, how are you gonna claim it right now? Then leaf fell and hit the back of my head. Hold on, I don't want to skip all y'all stuff. Grand Rising Saran, James Grand Rising, Elise Grand Rising. I had a really good friend that was white and married to a black man, and they were Mormons. Oh shit! You know, back in the day, they were forced into divorce from Utah, and they were converting to Christianity. Uh, they invited me to their Bible study. As soon as I began asking questions, the obvious ones, they shut up. They shut, they shut my shit down to basically say that God's plan doesn't make sense to us, but that doesn't mean God doesn't love me. Blah blah blah. Uh, they never felt slavery was something but what God planned, and we are to forgive those who did those atrocities. Oh, the how? God damn! Are you serious? People ask why I deconstruct, why I keep doing these videos. It's because there are people out there like that. There are people out there like that. Grand Rising David and Grand Rising Michael. 666 has nothing to do with the Bible. No, 666 is Nero's name. I'm so sick of people thinking it's melanin and all these other kind of stuff. It's Nero's name. It was coded for Nero. It was a way to continue to make the uh, the Julio Claudians look bad. But we're not talking about that right now. We're still talking about this Mormon thing. All right, still talking about this Mormon thing. So even though we have, because even though there are, we mostly know of Brigham Young and Joseph Smith. It wasn't like these were the only one, because there were apostles like Orson Patterson, Orson Hyde, John Taylor. They all supported this concept of the black people being cursed before they even came to the planet because they were fence setters. Right? So they still believe this. And when you got the totality of leadership believing in something like this, and this is being passed down as the will of God, you can't come back and then say it's not. It's not the will of God. And in the 1960s, in their temple endowment ceremony, Satan was said to have black skin. So you're not going to you giving further reasons why black people can't become priests and give and receive the temple endowment, because within the temple endowment, Satan had black skin, and this was in the 1960s. And basically, the temple endowment is designed for the participant to become kings, queens, and priests and priestesses in the afterlife. Right. So you can become a priest on earth, but you can't be. But you got to get the temple endowment to be a king, queen, priest, priestess in the afterlife. And then in that, you get a new name, you get your temple garments, and you can have the celestial marriage. But they did teach that you turn white in heaven. But they will turn white. This was expressed by Jane Manning, Hiram Smith, that they would all turn white, and they would get their new lineage through their patriarchy if this happened. Let's see what y'all say. Yes, my friend wasn't supposed to marry the black man. This is why they changed to Christianity. Yeah, because in Mormonism, interracial marriage was still shunned, up until more recent times. That always identified me knowing people of slave history made the free choice to follow these religions that force that type of garbage. Yeah, some of the first people, uh, they followed Joseph Smith. Some of those people who followed Joseph Smith were black. The ones who, and that was when they was in Nauvoo, Illinois, and then some of them, and then they followed Brigham Young to Utah. Now we got that same thing with after slavery, they still participated in Christianity in America. Uh, Instead of saying that, this now that we have our freedom, I want to go back to what my ancestors, because we know this was forced on us. You've been taught something, and these people would believe that Jesus freed them from slavery. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Slavery is over. Thank you, Lord Jesus. I know it is only through your will. We've been long suffering. That's the mentality. Say, I find it interesting that Dan McClellan is a practicing Mormon, but makes the videos he does. Yeah, I that is actually what caught my attention to him. I'm like, okay, is he deconstructing? Is he deconstructing? But I don't think Dan. I wouldn't. Other Mormons don't consider him Mormon because when I read through a lot of the comments, uh, he does get a lot of Mormon hate. So I don't think many Mormons still consider him Mormon. I'm pretty sure the Mormon Church definitely doesn't consider him to be Mormon. I mean, he's sympathetic to the LGBTQ community, um, which the Mormon Church is not. Uh, he breaks down the Bible down to the language, which that ain't gonna work for them. So I don't think he's practicing Mormon. I don't think they acknowledge him in that way. I think they see him as an apostate. But did he grow up Mormon and was taught Mormon? I think when he went to Oxford, to do his studies. Oh, there was a bubbles. I thought it was a bug not flew in my cranberry juice. When he went to Oxford to do his studies, I think, like with most of us, once you study this in greater detail, you can't stay with it. You have to walk away from it. And you know, I just Mormonism is like one of the worst. It's one of the worst. Did you know that before 1978? I mean, was it 78? No, no, no. Up until 2000, it's either 2013 or 2017. No, it's 2013. Up until 2013, when the Mormon kids would be out, they were told not to go into black neighborhoods. Right? Prior to 78, definitely. but that black people shouldn't be shown Mormonism. But if a black person does find Mormonism on their own, then that's fine for them to find it on their own, but they shouldn't be led into Mormonism. And I think it wasn't until like 1913 that, I mean, 2013, that they started encouraging them to go into the black community. It might be 2017. I think that's 2017 when they were being encouraged to go into the black community. But before that, they weren't encouraged to go into the black community. Trust me, when I lived in East Cobb, my neighborhood was only about 30% black. So if you were just looking at it from the surface, you would think that neighborhood was a white neighborhood. You heard about Sundown Town? I live in what used to be a sundown town. Yes, Stone Mountain, Georgia used to be a sundown town. If which basically means if you don't live there, get your ass out of there before sundown. Because either the popo or the neighborhood gonna come get you. But help me to understand the psychology of it. You have a church that has written specific books to show you that you are cursed through Cain, you're cursed through being fence setters, you're cursed through Canaan. That even if you make it to heaven, well, first, all of God's angels were white. But even if you make it to heaven, you are only there. When you get there, you get to be changed into being white and delightsome. That you can't hold a priesthood for the most part on earth, but for those few that do get to hold the priesthood, you are told that you will not receive the endowment that allows you to still be a king, queen, priest, or priestess in heaven. You don't get sealed, no celestial marriage. You get none of the benefits. Uh, when Utah was still a slave, when Utah was being still held slaves, they weren't fighting for your freedom, even though they claimed to be abolitionists. That if you were a slave in Utah and your master, you couldn't find Mormonism first. Your master had to find Mormonism, and then if your master gave permission, then you can become a Mormon. Right? So they weren't even doing like the Baptists and the Catholics and all them were doing in the South. And I know some of this is because Brigham Young, it was a Southerner. He was a Southerner. So he had the Southern mentality. You can know all of this. You can know about, what was his name? Elijah Abel. No, you can know about Biddy Mason. She was one of 14 black people who sued for their freedom after being illegally held captive by white Mormons in San Bernardino, California. Because California it was illegal to have slaves, but you had Mormons there, and they was holding black slaves in California. And these are Mormons. What was my person's name that I was looking for? It's Elijah something. Yeah. When you got stories that you know of Elijah Abel in 1836, who was promised that he would be made white in eternity and delightsome. Darius Gray told that he was a black Mormon, told that his skin would become lighter. In 1978, Apostle LeGrand Richards stated that the curse of black skin for wickedness and promise of white skin through righteousness only applied to Native Americans and not to black people. Didn't 1978? So it wasn't until 2013 that the church published a essay refuting these ideas, describing the church teachings justifying the restriction of racial folk belief. So they try to take it out of the doctrine, take it out of saying that it was God and make it into that. But here's the thing: the president of Mormonism still didn't say it. The them publishing a pamphlet, so and they still had a Sunday school teacher in 2015 that was still teaching this position out of a pamphlet. But the president, the office of the presidency, still didn't publish this thing. They still didn't say anything about that. And we're talking, what year was I saying that was? 2015? I mean, 2013? The president of the church, the one who was the leader, was still not saying that. Mm-mm. How do you still stay in this religion? I was hoping that one of them would come on here. I needs to hear it from one of them. um, Brigham Young was not a. Oh, I thought he. Wait a minute. I thought he was a Southerner. He was from New England. Okay, my bad. And Trek West. Yeah, he was a racist and a rebel. He was also considered a criminal under the New Eastern. Okay, thank you for the correction, Grand Rising Brian. I could have swore he was a Southerner, but I see. I don't mind being wrong. I don't mind being corrected. Grand Rising David. But here's one of the things that Brigham Young taught: that the punishment for black and white interracial marriage was death, and the killing of a black-white interracial couple and their children was a blood atonement um, of a blood killing the interracial couple and their children as part of a blood atonement would be a blessing to them. He also stated that if the church was to approve of white intermarriage with black people, it would go on to the destruction and the priesthood would be taken away. Tell me again how this stuff is not. Why would a black person follow this religion? And they continue to have manuals that talked about not allowing for interracial marriage up until 2013. Up into the 1960s, a interracial couple wouldn't have access to the temple. As soon as we hit the 1 hour mark, that's when I'm gonna open this up for all kinds. We're gonna talk about anything. Most women started the Mormon religion. Oh, I'm outside, Debbie, so you're gonna hear all the birds. Well, you can tell I'm outside, so it's kind of like a dumbass statement for me to say that I'm outside. Most of them started the Mormon religion was from the Eastern Standard and the newly found Eastern Seaboard. Where was Brigham Young from? You're right, Rockingham, Vermont. Yep, Rockingham, Vermont. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. My bad. Oh hell, we'll just talk about anything now. Are you serious? Oh, let me see. Joseph Smith and Brigham Young were Freemasons, so Mormonism isn't corrupt in its true form. Oh my God, are you serious? Who was that? Who said that bullshit? Why in the hell? I should have. Taquan, being a Freemason is like being a Democrat or a Republican, in the sense that, oh, thank you. The coffee wasn't working yesterday, y'all. Oh my joy. Oh my joy. If I was Christian, I'd be like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Oh my joy. Oh, the coffee. The beans wouldn't grind yesterday for some reason. I don't even want this cranberry juice no more. You can go over there. You know what? I'm not even gonna entertain the stupidity of somebody being a Freemason and that has something to do with the religion itself. In its true form, Mormonism is racist as fuck. Okay, the belief that Jesus came over and he talked to the Native Americans and this Lucifer and Jesus. Well, first, Yahweh is not even the God. Yahweh was born to parents, and then Yahweh had a whole bunch of wives, and they had a whole bunch of celestial babies. Where you at? Huh? Okay. And they had a bunch of celestial babies, and those celestial babies are the ones who uh, fought in the wars and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, come on, man. Can you talk about the eyewitnesses for Jesus? There are no eyewitnesses for Jesus. I mean, literally, there aren't. There are no eyewitnesses for Jesus. Um, by the time you get to somebody writing about it, they're going based on what multiple people had already said. It would be like, if I said it, let's say I was an eyewitness or a supposed eyewitness, and then Taquan heard me tell him, and then David heard Taquan, and then Debbie heard David, and then Oki, he winds up telling the story. So that is no eye. There are no eyewitness accounts. Equality is still fresh, and I got behind. Long before Christianity took hold, I think you're trying to say pagan worship began, or people worship began to perceive the old gods not as full-blown individuals, but rather as different manifestations of a single Godhead, a phenomenon that's called inclusive monotheism. Actually, Clarence, if I understand you correctly, that you're absolutely correct. Hinduism, Ifa, most religions had a central god, and that god was the god, and then every other deity was just a manifestation of that, from that god, that represented a certain aspect in nature or man's ways or something like that. It is Christianity that decided that these were polytheistic religions. The Mormon code is dangerous. It's a nation building religion. Multiple wives, multiple offspring, strict rules with the one head guiding the body. I don't have a problem with polygamy, first of all, but you're right. It is about nation building. It is a nation. It is a cult. I gotta get rid of this. I'm gonna drink my coffee. Off the chain again. Oh yeah. Oh, you tell me. Damn, I'm that far back when I got my coffee. Dude, I've already addressed um, Freemasonry with you in the last time you was here. Why are we gonna go in circles? Why are we gonna go in circles? So every anything that a Freemason touches evil, negative, is something bad. They corrupt everything. All right, that's what you believe. Then you need to believe that everything is corrupt. Then that there is no purity, because Freemasonry been around longer than any of these books and beliefs that you have. The original, the first knowledge of Freemasonry is back in ancient Egypt and ancient Sumeria. So everything is corrupt then. And if that's how you are about it, then that's how you are about it. I'm not trying to convince you otherwise, because I don't have to. No, then you shouldn't even be in America. You should leave. You should leave America. You can't go to Europe. You can't go to North Africa. You can't go to Ethiopia, down in there. You can't go there. You can't go into the Levant. Shit, just don't go nowhere. Go to the Sentinel Island. Yes, the cranberry juice is better for me, but this is coffee. As an alchemist, I would say this is the sweet elixir of life. Grand Rising Bryant, Brian B, Grand Rising Tracy, Echo. I know you've been here, but Grand Rising. Hebrew word for LOI, singular form, translated to LOI, biblical aromatic. Okay, Allah. All seems to be making the same talking. Yeah, you on the one sense you would think that they're talking about the same guy, but then their origin stories, what they do, who they love, all those things change. People created deities based on their own propaganda for themselves. So even though they're similar in thought, and there is an idea of mind share, that a person can be on this side of the planet and a group of people on another side of the planet, and they will have the same thoughts and same ideas and come up with the same stuff, especially when you're observing the same thing. The reason why um, sun worship was such a big deal, because everybody saw the sun. Everybody realized what the sun did. It brought life. Everybody saw changes in their seasons, because even though some places don't have, winter, spring, fall, summer, all that stuff, they'll still have rainy seasons. There are hotter seasons. So in witnessing nature, man developed deities. That Jesus character by definition was a mason. Yeah, actually, in the older Bibles it said that he was a stone mason. And when I went to Nazareth, right outside of Nazareth, where he supposedly grew up and where Joseph was supposedly from and all that, there's an ancient Roman stone quarry there. There was also a little Buddhist temple there, but ancient Buddhist temple there as well. But yeah, Jesus would have been a stonemason. They later changed him to a carpenter. I'm just saying the reason not to go to Sentinel Island so he can get killed, but that's the only place that's been untouched by people, untouched by history and society, is the Sentinel Islands. I don't want him to die. They might let him in. No, you evidently don't know what masonry is and how it started. Craftsmen were placed in guilds. They had guilds. They kept their art secret. You had to gain access to become an apprentice and so on and so forth of the chain, because everybody couldn't learn the skill set of being able to work with stone masonry to build the archways and all these sorts of things, to build temples and all that. It was a highly coveted craft. Uh, it's kind of like getting into Wharton Business School. Not everybody's going to be able to get into Wharton. You got to qualify to get into Wharton, right? And it ain't like qualification getting into Harvard and Yale. Now this is their whole new qualification. Joseph, Jesus' real daddy, was a stonemason. Jesus, and it usually went through family lines. Your father, then the son, and then so on and so forth. Jesus was a stonemason. And I challenge you to go to Israel, go to Israel, go to Nazareth, and look at the archaeology there, and then come back and say that Jesus wasn't a stonemason. If you do, that is some blindness like a champ. And yes, I exactly echo. Religion is all about control. Jesus growing up, what does Gnostic text say? Well, the empty gospel of Thomas talks about how Jesus, um, was pushing little kids off the roof. Yeah, he was a mischievous little boy, pushing little kids off the roof and then bringing them back to life and telling people, you ain't see the magic tricks that I'm doing. He was a little mischievous. Of course, they'll say that it's heresy because you know it doesn't fit their dynamic. But if you think about it, the reason why the infinite gospel of Thomas was written is because people were asking that very question from the time frame from like 3, 4 years old. Like, where has he been? What happened? What was he doing when he was 16, 17, 18? So they made up stories. And actually, we do have a Masonic passport because it represents how back in the day, Masons were the only, certain art guilds like Masons were the only ones who can travel throughout the world without having to have paperwork or permission from kings. You own the books and have studied more than any one of your fans. Owning the books, reading the books, does not validate wisdom of the books. Many people read books, but lack wisdom of the book. And I'm not trying to throw stones at you, Taquan, but there's a difference between reading a book without having an intended destination point. If you read a book about masonry, but you already have decided that Masons are evil, you already have, there's nothing in that book that's going to change your thought process. You're not going to get wisdom out of that book. You're only going to gravitate towards things that fit your paradigm. You see, I read things without that mindset. You know, I'm just going to accept it is what it is. Now, the other part is you're talking about people on here. I'm telling you, as a 32nd degree Mason, which I know a hell of a lot more about Masonry than you even can think you know about Mason. No, I know about Mason because I am one. I know about Mason because I've studied in the lodges. If you ain't studied in a lodge, I don't want to hear you talk. You can't tell me you know more about Masonry than I do. Yeah. And you're right, Brian. Even some scholars, and that's the thing, scholars who have people who have studied and they are scholars and they claim the title scholar, they already have, if they came into it already deciding where they were going to land. This is why apologists, I don't even waste my time reading an apologist book or PhD paper or reading anything from a seminary because they decided before they even looked at the material of what the answer already is, and they're going to make it fit. People say Jesus exists, but there is no direct archaeological evidence. Christians want to say you got demons when your brain works properly. So having a properly working brain is brain equals demons. And I would take that because if you look up what the word demon originally means for daemons, daemons were either right at the same level of archangels or right below archangel, but they were considered to be geniuses. And that's why we used to, you know, how we say things like, man, he was on the court. He was a demon on the court. Like he was brilliant on the court. Let me look it up real quick. Etymology of the word daemon. Oh. Let's see. We need. All right, daemon is a daemon. Nope, nope. I don't want to do it that way. I mean, it means to conquer, to take over, to tame. But etymology of the word demon, which takes me to daemon, but it's a different spelling of daemon. But daemon. Oh no, that's a. Where is it? You gotta be mindful of who you look up. The Greek word daemon. But yes, it means to tame, to subdue, to conquer. It had nothing to do with, originally had nothing to do with evil and all that kind of stuff. That is the English translation of it. Yep. A daimon, which means to tame or to subdue in the Greek. Daimons were considered, in the Greek mythology, daemons were considered to be benevolent spirits or divine beings, sometimes acting as guardian spirits for individuals. Over time, the name daemon to uh, evolve to signify a loyal and trustworthy individual. But it has its roots in ancient Greek mythology. Masons are tight lipped. Yep, that would be correct. Democrats are taking. Yeah, look. And many people used to name their children Damien. And you know, I remember doing some research. You know, when that name fell out of, um, started falling out of popularity, it was a movie. Is it Rosemary Baby? Where she had a baby named Damien? Isn't that the where the baby Damien is? It because Damien was one of the names that I was gonna. The Omen. Thank you. That was one of the names that I considered for my son, because his middle name was going to be Alexander. It was, well, his middle name was either going to be Alexander or Michaels. Don't get happy on here, Michael. But Damon Michaels or Damian Michaels or Damian Alexander. But I did like Damian Alexander. And so when I was researching names, I saw that it was the movie, The Omen, that made it go out of popularity. And part of me wanted to do it just to be spiteful. I knew it would piss off certain family members to name him Damien. But then I hit on Lincoln, so I was like, oh no, Lincoln Alexander, I like that. But many people won't. They only look at what's known in their current understanding of things and don't go back into the past and research something to find out what something was at certain points. They get stuck in today or in more recent history. Grand Rising Paul, I didn't see you there. So it was Gregory Peck. Is that, I guess that's who played Damien. Yep, I had a friend named. Well, he wasn't my friend, but it was a guy I knew, upperclassman. His name was Damien. Damien Bostic. He was pretty good in basketball. If he had a little weight on him, he probably would have. He probably would have did something. They changed his name to Jonathan. Thank you, Debbie. I do believe in naming. We're not gonna get into that. We're not gonna do that. I'm about to talking about naming people. There are certain names I just wouldn't name people. They have certain connotations to them. So names are important. They are important. That's why when people call this dude Jesus, see, I'm gonna work this right back to what we was talking about. When people talk about this Jesus, I know people say, "Oh, there was no I, there was no J." This is true, but Jesus is the from Isus, which was their way of trying to say Yahshua because they didn't have the Greeks didn't have the Yah and the Shu sound, so that was how they can do it. No, it doesn't mean Hail Zeus or Jesus. it's the it is the translation for the Greeks for Yahshua. Sorry, I was saying Yahshua, but Yahshua. It is their translation for Yahshua. It doesn't mean the Zeus who saves. That's a popular thing that a lot of deconstructionists like to say, but it's not actually correct. It is a correct translation. But if I was Christian today with the knowledge that you have today, I would the English, the true English translation of Yeshua is Joshua. That is the problem. And that's what deconstructionists should be saying. That you shouldn't be calling him Jesus because that was just the closest the Greeks and the Latin and the Romans with Latin had to the name Yahshua. When King James translated the authorized King James actually still says Isus. It is the American, more of the later English and then American English that changed it to Jesus, that went on with the Jesus thing. When it should be Joshua. Because in true English, it's Joshua. So English shouldn't be translating from the Latin or the Greek. It should be translating from the Aramaic, which would be Joshua. So names are important. Like I think we talked about this some time back. I refuse to name my daughters names like Candice, Candice, or even though Sydney's middle name is Nicole, her middle name can be Nicole. But those nicknames like Candy and Nikki, every girl I knew named Candy and Nikki, they wasn't good girls. Debbie, you always putting some cardinals on your thing. You can't see it. I can barely see it, but there's a female cardinal right there in that tree. Die Hard 3. I'm trying to think Die Hard 3. That's when old boy's brother was messing with him, I think. No, is that 2? No, that's 3. I don't know. You got to tell me what you mean by that. I don't actually trust the canon or forbidden text or the mainstream history we've been raised with. No, in which I look for both sides of every story to try to understand where there lies the truth. It's kind of like if you have a couple that's in disagreement, where there's his story, there's her story, and somewhere in between that mess is the actual truth. But truth is still perspective based. Uh, there's only we can both look at this tree in front of me. Y'all can't see it. Maybe one of the trees behind me has it. But if it got this one got yellow leaves, I would say these leaves are yellow. You may say they kind of brownish yellow, and that one's kind of greenish yellow. So the perspective. So if I say that, oh yes, on this fall day, the leaves in the tree were yellow, or you say the leaves in the tree were greenish yellow, and you say the leaves in the tree were brownish yellow. Fact of the matter is, we're all right because depending upon which leaf we're looking at. How do you know it's a female? Oh, so I talked about this on a relationship video once before, Renee. So you might get a kick out of it. In the animal kingdom, for the most part, the males are flashy and the females are more subdued. So a female cardinal it has this very light red, brownish look to them. The bright red cardinals are males. Just like the peacocks with all the big plumes, males. The lion with the big mane, male. Uh, all these different birds that got all the colors, males. They're males because the flashiness is to attract the female. Like if you ever see peacocks when they're getting ready for their mating season, and they fan out their thing, and then they start shaking them, they're flashy. Uh, Other animals, they'll be flashy, but they'll also build these nests. And the female goes around and inspects the nest, and whoever got the best nest, that's the one she get with. So if we follow the animal kingdom, to which a certain extent we do, if you think about it, you see a well-dressed man with a real nice car and a real nice house, and then you see the other dude. He got a decent car, got a decent house, he dressed decently. More women are attracted to the man with the well-dressed, the nicer car, and the nicer house. Flash, it's built in, but that's how you can tell the difference. Yeah, the males are yeah. When they show pictures in these books and stuff of the beautiful birds, they're males. In the beginning of the movie, Billy kept saying Jesus, Jesus. Sam asked him why he had kept calling him that. Then told him, then then told told I am the brothers when they say Jesus, like the god of the lightning, he would send a bolt. The fields. Okay. Women are more reserved, like a cat. You don't walk around seeing two cats hump. Nope. But across the street from me, my neighbor across the street, he's a canine cop, and he got like 3 dogs over there. The other day, when I finished making videos on the front porch, this one dog, he humped her 6 times. I was like, God dang, bro, you got some recovery. Your recovery is amazing. Yeah, dogs don't care. How come you don't like to talk about the zodiacs when the Earth uh, precessional orbit tilt uh, played a big part in the religions? They have even found zodiacs in ancient Greeks and Nazarene churches. Well, it's not that I don't like talking about it. It's just that my knowledge base is limited on it. I don't think that I could carry a very long discussion on it. I have made short videos about it. Like I've made short videos about the great year, um, which is the sun rising and going in and out of the different zodiacs and how those are related to the different people in the Bible. Like Moses is the bull. I mean, no, Abraham is the bull. Uh, Moses is the ram, and then Jesus represents the fish. And we're going into the age of Aquarius, which is why Jesus said, "Go into the village, find a man who's pouring out a pail of water." So that aspect of it, uh, people did worship things based on zodiacs. Now, when people go into it, I do think that when what was it? Who painted the Last Supper? My brain keeps saying Mozart, but I know that's wrong. It's not Mozart. But was it Da Vinci? No, it wasn't Da Vinci. Michael. Whoever painted the Last Supper. That when he painted it, he did paint it to represent the zodiacs. When you look at the hand positionings and you look at their placements and all of that, Michelangelo, thank you. He was painting it with the representation of the zodiacs. Now, does that mean that that's what the 12 disciples still meant? It's possible, but I'm not sure. Uh, can't really say it. The only person who really fits it, there's some persons who fits it. Mary Magdalene fits the moon. Jesus fits the sun. And Judas fits the Scorpio. Uh, in how you read about them in the Bible. I don't see how the other ones fit any. There's not enough information about the other disciples to be able to make them fit into the zodiacs. But Michelangelo painted that, and people ran with that idea. We don't say that about Dionysus' 12 disciples. We don't say that about Heracles and his 12 trials, or, you know, we don't attach them to zodiacs. But I mean, that's really why. To me, there's very limited. Now, do those things have effects on the psychosis of man? It does. Just like anything. If we believe in something strong enough, then the universe is going to fit to it. That's just how energy just works. And then, okay, so I did my birth chart. And when I looked at my birth chart and I looked at the different houses and what planets were involved in each house and what that means and all this stuff, there is some innate truth to it. Because I can look in my house of money and the planets that was involved in the planets and zodiacs that was in my house that deals with finances. And there's some basic things about me that does fit in that. But when I look at my life experience supersede whatever effect those things had. So I can't give it, I can give it like, just like I say, 25% of who you are is genetic. The other 75% is your experience and your environment. So I will give it 20%, 25% validity. 12 is a prominent number, as does 7, 3, 6, and 10. Yeah, it has prominence, but some of that prominence is what we made it. Now, 369 and the Fibonacci spiral, I'm going to give way more to that than any other numbers, because we see the Fibonacci spiral in nature over and over and over again. We see it in the universe. We see it in galaxies. 369 Fibonacci spiral. Math is just facts. Um, 12 cardinal nerves, 12 zodiac signs of the 12 disciples. Yeah. But because there are 12 zodiacs, and at one point it was 13 zodiacs, you know, it was 13. And if you went by if you go by the lunar calendar, it's 13 zodiacs. But it is similar to astrology. But they thought that, oh, there's a Haley's coming is coming through every 75 years. So every 75 years, cultures thought that, oh, something amazing, some birth is going to happen, or some destruction is going to happen, or, you know, Haley's coming just comes through every 75 years. No, I don't know if I'm going to get around to it. Because I don't think any deity of any book that we've written created anything. So Leonardo painted it, not Michelangelo. Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapels. So it might have been Da Vinci. Shit, let's find out. Y'all know I like Dr. Google. If you use Dr. Google the right way. Who painted the Last Supper? Leonardo da Vinci. Y'all ever go to Paris and see the Mona Lisa for real? She ugly. But her eyes are freaky. The way her eyes move, her eyes follow you wherever you're standing. So he was able to create that illusion with it. But yeah, Da Vinci. And Da Vinci was a man out of time. If you ever really go a deep dive on Da Vinci, he had to be on some shrooms because he was just coming up with some amazing shit. If he had he needed better technology. If he had better technology, there is no telling. And he questioned everything. If you have a Da Vinci today who questions everything and is able to connect all these dots, I put him, he's like a Tesla, like Nikola Tesla, Grand Rising RG. If light governs life, and life is a projection of light, then we understand why the ancients studied astrology to understand self. I can agree with that to a certain degree. But as Nikola Tesla, if you want to understand anything, understand energy and frequency. Because even though light is life, it is the energy and frequency of the light that determines the life. That all things are based on that. Yeah, Michelangelo did the Sistine Chapels, which I don't see. That's the talent to paint you like this is amazing. Um, it is worth seeing just to appreciate the ability, the skill set. And if you really look at the Sistine Chapel, his painting in the Sistine Chapel, it is the Eye of Horus. It is the mind. That painting in the Sistine Chapel, you can see how he was trying to show that God and man is the connection of the mind through the third eye. It makes you wonder if Michelangelo studied understood the Nubio-Kemetic science, the Atlantean science of, the third eye and the connection of mentalism and vibration and all of that, because it looks like that. Like even in When did I go there the first time? 1990. No, I think that we had clicked over in the year. So 1991. When I'm looking up at that thing, it is like my first thought was, damn, that looks like the all-seeing eye. It looks like the eye of Horus, and with all the clouds and everything, that looks like a mind. And that the pineal gland is right there, and you know, you say he licked frogs. Yeah, I've heard about people doing that. I'm not doing that one. Give me some shrooms all day. I'm not licking frogs. You lick the wrong one, that you wind up getting that toxic frog. I don't know. He was an incredible mind, uh, subdued as well by the church and the leaders of Florence at the time. Medici gave him what he needed as far as money. That family was also under the intense scrutiny by the church and other bankers at the time. Oh yeah, a good, but also Hollywooded up. There was a series. There was a series. It was called something. It was something. It was a series about Da Vinci in his youth and dealing with the um, Medici's. It was really good. It was really good because they showed his ability to create. I mean, he was a little freaky because he explored everything, women, men. He was working on cadavers and stuff. But some of it is Hollywooded up. But yeah, the church, he had to be very careful because of the power of the church. And then Lorenzo Medici had to be very careful of the power of the church. So he can only go so far with him. But it was good. Me and Kevin debunking the Bible stream. I'm gonna get Kevin on here. I know on his page he doesn't do that as much anymore, but I'm gonna get him on here. We're talking about it. Actually, we yesterday our conversation yesterday was about something totally different. But yeah. The phrase "from the love of Pete" comes from when they were painting St. Peter's Basilica and weren't paying them. Oh, that sounds like one of Angelina's "Really Did You Know" videos. I'm sure she's still on here. You might want to snatch that one and put it in your notebook, Angelina. What Brian B just said. Da Vinci's Demons. Thank you. That was a. I actually, I watched that show like a champ, and was mad when it went off because it had some decent historical accuracies. Now him coming over to the New World, as they called it, and all of that, I don't think that I've never seen any records of him sailing to South America or Central America. I forgot which one he went to, but that would have been interesting. But he could have. I mean, it's not like he didn't live during the time frame of Columbus and all of that. Because he was alive during that time frame. So that would is it possible? It is very it's possible. But to my knowledge, I don't think did Leonardo da Vinci ever sail to the New World? I know he knew. He died in 1519. So he had to have known, but would he have sailed here? Um, so Amerigo Vespucci and Da Vinci were both of Florence, employed by the Medici family. But there's nothing about him selling to the New World. But he would have known about it. Yep, religion equals religare. It's tied into buying something. Uh, no, I think that he was a real person, especially when you look at. I was very interested in the Medici's because of this sounds stupid, but my interest in studying something can be for some stupid reasons sometimes. But because one of the most prominent Medici's was Lorenzo Medici, and my first name being Lorenzo, so when I did a somewhat of a deep dive back in my 20s on Lorenzo Medici, some of the things that I saw were payment records to Da Vinci. So with Lorenzo being a banker, I don't think he would have been doing some payment records. He wrote some fake payment records up to a person that he was paying for artwork and for other inventions. The one they don't speak of from that time that traveled is Marco Polo. But who don't speak of? Actually, I do plan on doing after I did that video about China. I did think about going into a deep dive about the Genghis Khan and all the other Khans. Yeah, I don't think he ever sailed to South America. He would have been older. He would have been an old man by that time frame. I don't think he would have taken on that type of expedition during that time frame. I think he would have set his little happy ass down. I don't think he would have went. But Marco Polo, interesting, uh, especially them believing in. And if you study Marco Polo, you're going to wind up studying Prester John. You should get into the cons, uh, and then when you deal with the cons and their invasion, what did they make it? The cons made it all the way to Turkey, right? I think. And you talking about Solomon ain't had shit on Kublai Khan. Kublai Khan had a bunch of wives, didn't he? Didn't he have? Did he have? He had a bunch of wives as well, right? How many wives did Kublai Khan have? Okay, this just tell me he had 3 or 4 wives. No, 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 no. He had. Okay, maybe I need to refine this. How many concubines did Kublai Khan have? Oh, he only had 300. And I say only, right? They don't know. You know, he had 15 children between his wives. Doesn't really say much about. Oh, maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. Oh, yeah, it's Genghis Khan. Genghis had either several hundred to 1,000 or more children. Yeah, that's Genghis I'm thinking about. My bad. The Geo-Turks are descendants from the Khans. Yeah. Genghis had all them babies. Ooh, the Sultan Ismail ibn Sharif in 1645 to 1727 with a total of more than 1,000, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. That's a whole lot of kids. That's a lot of mouths to feed. See, y'all getting into Genghis, and I don't know as much about Genghis or Kublai Khan. My favorite Khan is Shaka Khan. You know what, y'all? I'm gonna say this with all the love in my heart. Y'all stupid. Y'all crack me up sometimes. Ah, y'all are humorous at his humor at his best. But I can't see. This is I've never really delved deep into the con world, the world of the cons. The furthest I went was because I had a curiosity as to why the towers on the Great Wall of China face inward instead of outward. And then upon further research, I'm more apt to believe that though the Great Wall of China was not built by the Chinese, but was built by one of the other tribal groups. Genghis had so many offspring, so many offspring. It changed weather patterns. Yeah, that many. Da Vinci was privileged by the church, but exports beyond what he was allowed to do. But he benefited from the patrons, which was mostly the church. Yeah, he skirted the line uh, a lot. He he navigated well between the church and science. He got caught up a few times here and there, but because of fighting the Ottoman Turks and his war engineering, they they let him get away with stuff that people like Galileo and uh, Copernicus. Well, Copernicus didn't publish shit until he died, but he couldn't get away with. They didn't treat him like they did Galileo. The wall was a road too, but I also believe the wall was either if the Chinese built it, then they built it to keep their people inside. But if the other group whose name I can't think of right now built it, they built it as a defense against the Chinese and to kind of like a sieging of a whole country instead of a siege of a city. You don't feel like there's enough proof to prove that Genghis existed? I think there's enough. I think with the coins and pottery and um, with people who lived during that time frame. And see, that's a big thing. If the story is only being told by people who didn't live, during that time frame, then that's problematic. But I can see it being used as a road. I haven't been to it. That's on the bucket list. But it's wide enough to be a road. Grand Rising Michael. Well, I thought you was already hit. No, that was okay. Sometimes I get the picture for Michael and the picture for Christian. Sometimes I get thrown off by those because without my reading glasses, I can't see clear. That's why I'm way back here. But I don't think the Chinese actually built it. Yeah, a lot of people put out rumors that William Shakespeare wasn't a real person, and they try to say that his writings are attributed to Francis Bacon, but also they say some of his writings were attributed to King James. And the reason why James would have went under the pseudonym is because it wasn't proper for royalty to write poems and poetry and shit like that. But right, Shakespeare wrote a bunch of personal letters to people that he knew and to some of his boyfriends. Just throwing that out there. Not that I care. I just throwing some controversy into the mix. Back to religious studies. Yes, 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 yes. Ooh, this sunlight is throwing off my screen. It's like I'm seeing my reflection. Learn today that learn today that not all Islamic mosques face Mecca. Mecca has been mistaken for Mecca, the Valley of the Weeping Moon, near the Petra and southwest of Jordan after great quake around 25 years of the birth of Muhammad. Prophets in the original mosque was facing Petra, not Mecca, including the ones in China that were built. Yeah, and you'll also, when I was in Saudi Arabia, there are some that also used to. Um, hey, spider, you going somewhere? That also some of them, the ancient ones, also faced Jerusalem. So it hasn't always been Mecca. Grand Rising Mike. I think the group that became the Huns, it's oh shit. See, I'm down. I'm outside, so I don't have my notes for when I did the video on who built the Great Wall, on the possibilities of who built it. Who built the Great Wall of China? Let me see if I can find. It wasn't even though they give it to Qin Shi Huang, the fact that it faces inward does. If Qin Shi Huang built it, he built it to keep the people in. But it was shit. I'll have to go back and find that video. Brian said the Chinese. I know we talking about multiple different things. They also have a burial site in Church of England for William Shakespeare, I'm assuming. But it was, I ain't gonna even start to lie. I can't remember. I did that research on the Great Wall and I can't remember everything about it right now. It was a curiosity I had one day and I went all up in it. But can't remember. Yeah. because Chinese name, those Asiatic names like that are not the easiest thing for me to remember. But so I it was like a band of a bunch of multiple tribes. It was this one tribal group, and they were comprised of multiple bands that came together to form. It was the Huns. They became the Huns, and they were and they you had a bunch of treaties back and forth with them and some other people, and it was like three main groups: the Huns, the what will become the Chinese, and another group. But this Western group that became the Huns, which is people that stretched all the way from Turkey, to what is today China. They banded together, and they they literally have more claim. And I think it is. I think they do become the Huns, or they were the Huns at the time they built it. So it's starting to like pop in a little bit. You ever heard of the book 1421, The Year China Discovered America? Uh-uh. I wouldn't doubt it. Uh, it's an interesting thing. I think the Chinese had came to America long before 1421, though. Let me tell you why. When I was researching the when the Chinese geneticists who wanted to prove that Chinese people were indigenous to China actually wound up proving that Chinese people came from East Africa. Uh, one of the things that led him in one of the things that led him in his studies and that he continued to study was the fact that the whole out of Africa migration from 125,000 years ago goes into China and Asia. Well, and Asia, all of it is Asia, goes into Asia. And we still seeing a lot of black Chinese and some black Chinese Japanese shoguns, and what so on and so forth. If you agree to the Bering Strait 65,000 years ago and the crossing of the Bering Strait, which just looking at animal migration, the Bering Strait had to have happened, being iced over 65,000 years ago, because that Bering Strait icing over kind of screwed over the Americas, because that's when horses and camels migrated across the Bering Strait. And I say it's screwed over because horses and camels provided communication and connection with different civilizations to which the Americas didn't really have, which is why their growth was not as quick as the people in Asia and in Europe and the Levant and North Africa. If they had horses and camels in Southern Africa, in the Americas, then when the Europeans would have came, they would have been met with a wholly different types of society. It's a great alternate history thought process to go through if horses and camels never left the Americas. So, and people follow those migrations of animals. So, following that migration across the Bering Strait of animals switching sides and going both sides, I do think the Inuit people and the Americans, the American people, crossed over during different ice ages. Now, there is a story in the Chinese lore about the Zai people. The Zai people knew about they believed in the idea of people who had crossed over and came to the Americas over the Bering Strait. So 25,000 years ago, according to their story, the Chinese people, the people there came over looking for the people who had came over. These would also be your Olmecs who came over looking for them. When they got here, they met up with the people who were here and stayed and started, integrating with them. which created a different look on that western coast of the Americas. Because even when you look at when Europeans came to the Americas, the eastern coast Americans were darker, indigenous people were darker than the western people. Something like that happens when you have a lighter skinned Asiatic people come and start to integrate with the darker skinned people on that west coast. And so I think they came long before 1421, which is why you had the different people in America. Now, I do think that Africans came and traded with the more East Coast people in the Americas before 1492. This is why Columbus's records and Cortez's records show that there were black people who was already here, but they identified them still to be different than the indigenous people who were here. They were taller and darker, especially in Cortez's uh, journals, that they were definitely taller and darker than than the indigenous people that he met in Africa. And we have gold, Guyanese gold was found in the Americas, especially in the Caribbean, Central America, South America, were found in those areas. The gold gold spear tips were found in the Americas that were made of Guyanese gold. So, and then when you look at the currents, the currents will flow where you come off of Africa, you'll end up most likely in the Caribbean, and then you go down south, follow the line of South America, and like right after Brazil, after Brazil, it swings back over to Africa. So it's possible. And what was it called? The Ra-2 was an Egyptian boat that was built similar the same way Egyptians built boat, and that guy named Thor, he sailed it across the Americas in like 45 days, from West Africa to the Americas in 45 days. So I think there was some mixing that was going on long before that. Other people came. It just they didn't come to conquer. Most people came to trade. Right. And the ancient Chinese and the Mayans and Aztecs, they do have that look to them, which I think is that combination of the when they got here. And when you look at down in Peru, is it Peru or Chile? I think it's Peru, where there are villages that if those people they met Japanese folks, they integrated with the Japanese, and genetically they've mapped them to Japan. So that part is enough right there. The black people that were here were the black dude. There were black people here in America long before there was any Moors. Before Moor was ever a thing, they were already over here. Now, do I think some of those Moors could have went over and integrated with some of the people who were here? But you're talking 1490s. There were black people in the Americas long before then, before Moors came. That's grabbing a specific time frame and attaching it and making that the whole. But all the people that was here long before 1490s, they weren't Moors. You said there's not enough evidence. Shit, I don't talk so much. I don't even know what I gotta make sure I'm not enough evidence for. There's a legend that it was to keep the scaled ones with Egyptian created language, but I'm not sure. But I don't know about that one. Okay, okay. But yeah, most people who had resources in their own place and had plenty of it and then just traded. They didn't try to conquer. We have to understand that the difference between Europe and the majority of the rest of the world is that, and it's not an indictment against Europe, it's just that the Europeans had too many, the number of people that they didn't have enough resources for the people that they had. So they had to go and create the silk, create the Silk Road. They had to get into the Levant. They had to get into going down into Ethiopia and go to India. They had to go trade with other people because they couldn't. Once that population got big enough, they couldn't support themselves. So it became a necessity, and necessity is the mother of all invention. So you're going to consistently and continuously innovate when you're forced to go out and trade. Now, as you innovate and you get a great distance of innovation from the indigenous groups, you begin to say, why am I spending this money? I might as well just take it. And that's just humans. If black people were here before any other race, then how did white people get here? Oh, now you're taking me back to a video I did about a year ago. So, biologically, and you have to think people are, first, let's establish there was a time, don't even go with Yakub. Yakub that is a myth. That's foolishness to me. Um, that when I first learned that through the Nation of Islam, I was like, what? And only the Nation of Islam teaches Yakub trauma. Only the Nation of Islam. When I went to Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and Dubai and Qatar and Oman and Yemen and Morocco and Egypt and Tanzania, I mean not Tanzania, but Tunisia, nobody teaches this Yakub story. They was all like, what? Who? What? What? That is a Nation of Islam story. But just looking at established first, people were isolated. People migrated, but they were still isolated. Why do I have dark skin? What does the dark skin do for me? It helps block radiation from the sun. When you're living in tropical areas, you need dark skin. Uh, but it blocks that radiation. But also, we also need vitamin D. When most people live coastal. Most groups live coastal. You get vitamin D from the ocean, right? From fish, sea life. So you're good. I can be dark skinned, protect me from the radiation. I don't need vitamin D from the sun. I'm getting it from the earth. But then when you move to places like Europe and Norway and all that stuff, well, you don't have to deal with as much solar radiation, so you're going to start to see lighter skin. But also, when you start moving inland and start with agriculture, and you're not eating as much sea life, now your body it needs to get vitamin D, so it lightens even more, so it can get vitamin D from the sun. Right? While isolated in Northern Europe and all that kind of stuff, they were still their skin tones would change. And I think it was like in the history, the archaeological history, it was about 8,000 years ago when that phenomenon started happening. When the Northern Europeans started moving more inland, started getting into more agriculture, and the skin became lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, the recessive genes take over. When you look at the Inuit people, when they were isolated but still living off the ocean, their skin lightened to like a light brown uh, because they still needed protection from what little sun they get, but they were getting all their vitamin D from the ocean. It's not until people start integrating with them that their skin tones got a little bit lighter. Why is melanin not on the periodic table? I don't know. I mean, the periodic table is atoms and molecules, right? So is melanin is not, I mean, melanin, I don't know if I would classify melanin to be molecules and atoms or elements. We can all agree that the Nation of Islam is not true Islam. Yep, carbon is. I don't know. It could be for racist means that it's not on a periodic table, because when did the periodic table come about? Yeah, I think the Yakub thing with him creating white people as a, because he was, I think he was mad at the other engineers or wise or leaders and wanted to create his own people to disrupt their stuff or some shit. It was something like that. When I first heard that in, what was that, 90, I was like, this is some bullshit. That's one of the reasons, you know, I threw away the nation like right then immediately, like this is some bullshit. And then not to mention that right after hearing that, about 6 months later, within 6 months, I'm in these Arab countries. The English colonization story of America is a takeover and repopulation cover up. I can see that. Lola, in 1990, when I was going to mosque with the Nation of Islam guys, that story was taught to be literal. See, this is one thing we have to be mindful of. Something will be taught literally in its inception, but then as we modernize in our thinking, we change it to make it metaphorical or some code or something like that. But when that story was invented, it was meant to be literal, because that is why they say white people are the devil. They were mad. They talked about his head. He was mad. Oh, they talk. Are you making a joke? Because the pictures of him, he's got a big ass head with a receding hairline. Melanin is a biological product of carbon. It's not an element by itself. Melanin can't be just carbon. It has to be more than carbon, right? In order for it to be melanin. I'm sure there's other things that are attached to it. I don't know. People get all into the six, six carbons, six protons, six neutrons, six electrons, and that's carbon. 666. That's what they really talking about. No, ancient people did not know about that. That is the name of Nero. That is why in the Greek is 666, in the Latin is 616, because Nero's name makes those two numbers in those two languages. Yeah, trauma. According to their story, that's he made white people by experimenting on black people, increasing the recessive genes, and then it also has something to do. And it all no, he made it so that they can. Okay, one story of it was that one version of it I was told by the nation guys, that he made white people by messing with the pushing the recessive genes in black people, keeping them away from society and teaching them evil shit. Another story of it was that um, he worked with the lepers and increased their ability to be able to live with leprosy and allow the skin to turn white, and then just kept them away from people and taught them evil shit. Took them up to And then when they try to bring them out of the mountains into Africa, the Africans like, damn, we were living peacefully, and now all of a sudden things are going bad. Oh, it's their fault. And then they kick them out of Africa up into Europe. That's the bullshit. It has carbon as one of the main component, but it is a molecule, not an atom or an element. Right. I think you're downplaying the ancient people's knowledge. Not downplaying their knowledge. Where's your evidence? They didn't have. There's no evidence of high-powered microscopes. Um, it just wasn't there. They had now. Did they have certain technologies possibly that we haven't figured out? Sure. When you look at some of the meta-netures on the walls in Egypt, it would seem like they're using sound waves to float large ass blocks. We can't figure that out today. So could they have had things that we don't know about? Sure. But one thing they didn't demonstrate is that they knew about that they had microscopes or being able to see atomic structures. Look, people, like I said, 75% is your environment. If you isolate people to a landmass area, over time, people are going to adapt to that landmass area, to the environment, to their diet. So their environment and their diet is going to start to create differences in those people. Are there any indigenous white people around the world? I think everybody started out black. As much evidence as based on the evidence I've seen out of African migration over hundreds of thousands of years, and people then adapted to different environments because they were isolated. We won't see that kind of thing today because we flying all over the place and mixing all over the place. So you're not going to see that same type of thing. The only place that you might be able to see that is a place like the Sentinel Islands. Those people have maintained whatever look they have based on their environment. Who built the pyramids is what you want to know. I think a pre-Younger Dryas civilization built it. Well, being specific, the Great Pyramids of Giza, the Sphinx, pre-Younger Dryas civilization. All other pyramids that were built since 8000 BCE were attempts at replicating those pyramids. I don't think they knew what the pyramids was used for originally. Well, the Gaza pyramids, I think they knew those were power stations, but those were not in use, during the time frame of Khufu and all these other people. So they tried to replicate it and um, made especially in like the Nubian people, the Kushites, they tried to make it into tombs. They decided to make them into tombs, but the pyramids in Giza are not tombs at all. But I think they were built prior to that. They were built last time that the Sahara was green, at minimum, which would have been about 15,000 years ago. 15 to 20,000 years ago is when they would have been built. See, I don't think those people were. See, indigenous white would mean like what time frame are you starting at? Because the further back you go, people were darker. But I don't think anybody was created. I don't think white people were created. White people weren't created. And if they were created, what did they create them out of? Got to start with something. Even in even in the Sumerian story, which is one of the oldest creation stories of man, they used a hominid that was different from the rest of the other little hominid that was running around. They infused their DNA with that hominid, made about 16 different versions before they got to Homo sapien. So even in their story, they at least in their story you can explain where did Neanderthal come from, where did Cro-Magnon come from, when we get Homo erectus, and then Homo sapien, because at least they say that the Anunnaki created 16 variations before they got to what we are. And Lance, there you go. With the Sumerian story, you get to clones and not so much just created something. It even says in the Bible the earth was dark and void, which could be the earth after some natural disaster happened. Uh, the meteorite that they claim that killed the dinosaurs. The earth was blanketed with darkness for like what they say, a couple million years. It would have been void. Very few animals would have survived. David said, "We are the aliens." I don't think that we're aliens to the extent of aliens from another planet, but alien to this time frame after some cataclysmic event happened on the planet. Space travel, unless you can fold space, go through wormholes, we are too far away. You ain't gonna just travel like in a straight line. The amount of friction that a ship would have to encounter, you would have to have some, like in Star Trek, they have deflector shields. It deflects from micro, it deflects from friction, but it also deflects from micro meteorites and all these sorts of things. You gonna need something, and that's a long ass trip. Unless you can travel faster than the speed of light, that's a long ass trip. And even traveling because you can't travel at the speed of light. What's I'm sure Sirius A and Sirius B, which is what the Dogons say, that there were aliens coming from Sirius B, a planet that revolved around Sirius B. That's still a long ass way to travel conventionally in a straight line. If you can't figure out some type of interdimensional traveling, no. We've had civilizations, extinctions, civilizations, extinction. One, I shouldn't say one. There's a theory out there that there's been at least 5 different extinction events on the earth that would have destroyed whatever civilizations were here. We can go to Mars. We can go to some of these within our solar system. Travel is possible. So the only way I can give anything to aliens, no, yes, the only way I can give anything to aliens, I would have to say that there's a possibility of billions of years ago, hundreds of millions of years ago, life existed on Venus, not Mars, Venus. Uh, because of what we do know about the galaxy, matter exists everywhere. There is some form of matter. Space is not empty, it has matter. If you shrink the sun 3 billion years ago, the sun being smaller, not putting out as much heat, uh, the habitable zone, Venus at some point would have been in the habitable zone. And over billions of years, as it, global warming, because the sun's getting bigger and it's now not in the habitable zone, civilizations may have said, oh, we got to get the hell out of here. Oh, that planet over there, it's in the habitable zone now. Let's go over there. Just like at some point, probably billions of years from now, the sun will be so big, it would have gotten bigger. Earth will not be in the habitable zone anymore, but Mars will. So Mars should then theoretically develop a thicker atmosphere, I should say, develop a thicker atmosphere. Uh, it's Now they do say that it looks like there used to be water on Mars. Maybe gonna get some water again, because our biology requires water. And then who says that all life has to exist the same way our life exists? That ship would have to be swerving. It sure would. Or you need some type of deflector shield. Like, what was the movie where old boy woke up old girl? They supposed to be on this 400-year journey, and they had this big ass deflector shield in front of the ship that's supposed to deflect meteorites. Yeah, life has to be all over the universe. Otherwise, what they say in the movie Contact, that's a great waste of space if there's no other life but us. Yeah, extinction doesn't mean oblivion. Some things are going to survive. Yeah, aliens from other planets. I want to meet someone, but just mathematically, with the number of galaxies and the number of stars and the number of planets, when you break that down, there has to mathematically, it's logical to say that there would be plenty of other planets that are in habitable zones from stars in the same way we are. So there has to be life similar to us on millions of planets. No, we don't hate white people here. We don't. I don't do the hate. We don't hate anybody. We don't hate people as a group. I might hate that individual or dislike them so much so that whatever little bit of love that I have for them as just existing is so buried deep. But we don't do generalized hating. Look at how much sperm we hold and how women can hold multiple babies. Nice. And water is plentiful in space. Yeah, there are more darker skinned people on the planet than paler skinned people on the planet. It wasn't until recently, probably around early 1600s, that people divided amongst each other either based on the color of their skin, which brought out racist concepts. Yeah, I think racism was around. It was around 1530, around the 1530s. that racism started to be created. Oh shit! The sun just made that way. I can't see nothing. I've seen something that makes sense. Then I believe, yeah, things have to make sense, both mentally, emotionally, and in my gut. Otherwise, nah. But it damn sure got to make sense intellectually. The Kibla, the Kaiba belt was a planet, and habitable planet comes and goes in every solar system. I've heard of that belt, but I can't remember where it is or what it is. But there has to be habitable planets. All right, doing this outside is interesting. I tried this before, and I think this is the reason why I didn't do it after that one. Group hate. Why? That's so slimy. Yeah, group hate makes no sense. And it's something we created. But you think about it, man has already always, for our known history, created reasons to hate another group. If it wasn't race, it was ethnicities. Oh, you're from this tribe. You from this nation. Ooh, I hate you because you got more resources than me, or your culture is different from mine. So I hate you. Oh, we went to war and you killed my dog. I hate you. This is why I. This is why I would be all for a one world nation. I really would. I have no problem with a one world nation. Uh, it just has to be constructed in a way where fairness exists, which be the most difficult thing for humans to do. Well, any conscious being has a problem with that. This one bird is just hanging out with me. That's a different bird. I don't know what the hell that is. Hey, what kind of bird are you? Hey, you, little brown bird. Are you a thrasher? No, you're too big to be a thrasher. I don't know what he is. But his little happy butt just keeps hanging out right there. Yeah, I am in total agreement with a one world order. Hey, little bird, you want to come over here? Come here. Come here, little bird. Come on over here. Come talk to the people. He's too busy eating. Let me see if I can get a picture. Oh, hell, it's getting hot right here now. I need a cloud. Can I get a cloud? Cover up some of this heat. Let's see if we can zoom in. Stay right. Stop moving. Look, fella. I want y'all to see this bird. Got it. Oh, he hungry. He eating everything. Ha! I got him good. I don't know. They're my friend right now. Anybody know what kind of bird that is? If my camera focus on it. A meadow lark. He eating plenty out there. He's just right there. He real comfortable though. I'm not against one world nation. The closest we came to a one world government in which it was more positive than negative was ancient Egypt. Yeah. I'm not against one world nation. I do have a problem with one world government. In order to have one world nation, we got to have one world government. Say getting some knowledge and good food. But the challenge would be how to create a one world government that is fair. Um, of course, population voting, the world can outvote Europe and America every time. So there would have to be a methodology to prevent basically voter fraud. There would have to be freedom of religion, one world currency. Uh, but I don't know. It'll be a huge undertaking. Look at the hidden story of Argentina on how that country erased most of its history of its Aboriginal, darker skinned black population through slavery, war, and immigration policies. Also, add in there, Marcus, imprisonment. They used imprisonment as well, and kind of like Jim Crow laws, you know, how they have vagrancy in order to throw people, to put black people in prison during the Jim Crow era. Thank you, Cloud. Uh, but yeah, Argentina did a great job of reducing their indigenous population, their black population. But war, malnutrition, imprisonment, uh, slavery was all part of that deal. What do you think happens when we die? Lights go out and that's it? No, I think your subconscious mind is going to choose either to go into the light if you've elevated your consciousness, if to go into a higher dimensional plane, I should say. If you choose, if you've upgraded your consciousness on this plane, this gross matter plane. If not, you coming back and you're gonna do it again. You're gonna be another human born into another womb. That light that people be going into is another womb. I've seen massive. You're in Johannesburg, David? I'm asking because Brian B is also in South Africa, over Johannesburg, hanging out of the clouds with low lights just prior to COVID. I was sober, and it makes no sense to me. It was massive. How can it not be detected over a large city? Makes no sense. Stand by. I stand by what I saw, and have good eyes. Hey, if you saw it, did you record it? Did you take a picture of it? You know how people are. We need proof. Yeah, natural law would be a good start. Yeah, I learned about Argentina's history about 6, 7 months ago, and I was like, wow, they they killed it. It was this young lady's TikTok where she talks about it, and then I went and researched all the things she talked about, and then researched the other side of it. But what she talked about was accurate as hell about Argentina. Yeah, you would have to get, yeah, religious bodies can't have anything to do with government. There has to actually be a true separation of church and state. So fuck all them 501(c)(3)s and tax exemptions and all that stuff. They got to be separate, totally autonomous, has nothing to do with government. Yeah, energy never dies. No, no, no time clouds move. Grand Rising, LaQuinn. Am I late today? Man, it is 2 o'clock. You know you late. Nah, look, I be messing with Angelina sometimes. I mean, we'll sit here and I'll make the wind blow. Y'all gonna believe in these powers of the mind before I'm done with y'all. Get into that meditative state, connect with nature, then ask the wind to blow, and then it just starts blowing. Then I ask it to stop, and then it stops. And we were sitting right here, and I was like, "We're not gonna make it blow in those trees. It's gonna blow in those trees over there." I don't know if she's still on here, but did it happen? Did it happen like I said, Angelina? I know last time we was up at the winery, we showed like, all right, we need that cloud to come over and block the sun for a while because it's hot. But unfortunately, when that cloud blocked the sun, that wind picked up like a champ. But yeah, I constantly work on my connection with earth energy because earth energy increases my consciousness, right? See, I'm just talking about the wind. I'm starting to get a little breeze right now. But that earth energy, because you start to understand it's a balance and it's a communication. Everything, all life, in my opinion, all life has a consciousness. There are different degrees of consciousness, just as above, so below. There are different planes of existence. There are different planes of consciousness. Being able to connect to the consciousness of on the animal mind, the elemental mind, and the higher spiritual minds. Nice little breeze now. All right, we cool, man. I got you. I got you. Picking up a little bit. Come on. You can pick up a little more. You can pick up a little more. You can pick up a little more. Just a little more. I mean, I see you blowing. Pick up a little more. Um, and they're like, Coach Ren's lost his damn mind. It's a simple. I'm a simple peasant. Not a king, not a queen. Hell, that's too much pressure. Hard to lead a football team and family, let alone a whole nation. I can lead a nation. I know I can. I can lead a nation. And it'll be the most prosperous nation without stepping on people. Also, power of the mind can be dangerous because that's where the conceptual God was created. So we do have to be careful, which is why they have to be balanced. Yes, that's why. Look, not true knowledge of the universe can't be given out to everybody because some people's lower base energies are going. If they were allowed to do that, it would be too much. See, Angelina's verifying. You see, she said yes, LOL. She's verifying that we was out here and I was meditating to make the wind blow and to make it stop. I think everybody's bloodline is from this planet, from nowhere else. From right chimp, all Earthlings, just different species of Earthlings have existed. I appreciate that, Lola. Uh, I, and I know how to measure out my anger. I know. I was joking some years ago about running for governor and of Georgia, and then I actually had enough people who said they would sign a petition for me to be on the ballot. This was in like 2018, and then I was like, "Oh hell no, we're not going to do that." Aliens have portals, must be, or they in the ocean and have been here for a long time already. Aliens are just people who are from Earth. They already been in Earth. They Earthlings. She's already on here, LaQuinn. She heard you because she verified when I said that we was out here and I was making the wind blow that it was blowing. She thought I was talking trash. I said, girl, I got powers. lead, lead us not to temptation. Whew. Y'all want me to end my relationship with Angelina? That's what y'all trying to do? She probably like, I don't want to be no governor's wife. I don't want to be the damn mayor. She probably don't even want to be the superintendent of sanitation. Mm-mm. I'd be running some shit though. Actually, I was thinking about that this morning for some reason. Um, when I was showering this morning, I was contemplating uh, a bill that would not allow for renters, like landlords, to increase rents beyond 0.5% of the current lease. Because when you look at rents in Georgia, they can increase every year by 3%, but no more than 5, I think. And if you think about that, if somebody stays somewhere long term for a long period of time and that rent keeps increasing, but their pay is not increasing that much. And what it costs to maintain property is not a 3 to 5% increase every year. So it really is a price gouging. But if you force landlords to only be able to go up 0.5%, then people will actually be in a situation where they can start saving money and buy a house. One of my things would be to set up programs to encourage people to have the ability to buy houses, to buy land. For some reason, I was just thinking about that this morning. Uh, Yours just went up $100 in Smyrna. You in Georgia? You in Smyrna, Lance? I'm in Stone Mountain. I used to live in Smyrna, over by the Battery. Well, down the street from the Battery. So your arrogance wouldn't allow you to lead the nations. They'll be calling you day and night about my checks. Army be sleeping when they should be mobilized. Commerce be out of whack because I'm eliminating Amazon Prime and kids all over the hype as candy gonna be free. Man, you gonna kill everybody. You got rid of Amazon Prime, you gonna have a revolution, bro. You would start a revolution. Oh, Lance. Oh, y'all went here. Oh, I've been meaning to come over there and play those two courses because those are two courses. Foxwood? Great course for working on your short game. Great for working on your short game, which is I need definitely need help on my short game. I can come off the tee like a champ most of the time, but that short game be kicking my ass. Actually, I was thinking about going over in that part of town tomorrow. Might go today though. Might go see my mom. Got to see what Angelina wants to do. Trauma's a Martian. They also did something like that back in the day. However, the incentive was given to you're talking about FDR's New Deal plan, where he created the housing authority, and he guaranteed a house for every person, every American. But then they drew red lines to ensure that only Caucasian Americans could take advantage of it. So strip away the redlining, period. They claim that they've stripped away redlining because they investigate banks, but they don't investigate enough banks. It's kind of like If you ever watch Seaspiracy, that little label for dolphin safe is fraudulent because they don't inspect enough boats, enough ships, enough. They don't expect enough to be able to justify that label, and most companies just pay for it. So we don't inspect enough banks and mortgage companies to be able to stop redlining. I would investigate the hell out of them to make sure that they're not participating in redlining at all. And then just I will have a national program. I will teach it in schools, but also a national program to teach people about budgeting and financing, uh, so that people can get loans and say that if you pass this program, we're going to guarantee you 1% financing of a house. Well, I have a whole program for a bank, and in that, but I would take that bank program and make it a national program, whereas then people would qualify to be able to get a 100% financing on houses, so you can own your property. Because when the community is owned by the people who live in it, they care more about it. They become more involved with the school system. It just changes the mindset of people. It ain't gonna change everybody, but all we need to get is about a 70% change in the mentality of people, and it changes the nation. All that land in the middle of the country, the federal government claims, yet won't allow you to settle on. True, but you got to convince people to move there. I ain't moving to the middle of the country. It's boring. But I'm with you though. People will move there if you made it available. So we did have something like that, sort of giving people money for houses and land. Only it wasn't for us. Yeah, I love the tea and the greens. I'll pass on the in between. Hey man, Lance, we gotta hit a we gotta go and hit some balls at least. Gotta hit the driving range. I'm gonna put my uh, email on here. I drive over there since I'm from Marietta anyway, and we can schedule up and go hit some balls. End up like X and King if I did that. Yeah, they might try. They'll try. I don't think socialism is an ugly word until you get to the taxation that applies to socialism. The socialism's taxation process costs way. It takes too much money out of people's hands. But I'm fine with the term. Yeah, but think about this, Oki, and who said that? Lance. Many people said long before Obama became president that if ever there was a black president, non-white president, he's mixed, but um, for shits and grins, everybody would consider him black, just purely black, not mixed. They always said, I remember in the 80s and 90s, early 2000s, we was always like, man, if there was a black president, they're going to kill him. 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 He's still alive. But see, I will be loved by even those who hate me for my religious stances. I will still be greatly loved because I'm going to put money in y'all pocket. We will have the fair tax so that there's no income tax. Uh, and I will force the states to also do the same thing. There's no income tax. Uh, and then by forcing the fair tax, and there's no income tax, just a national sales tax, and a state can have a state tax. Uh, we would the states and the federal government, from all studies I've seen, would actually make more money to be able to facilitate more programs and more plans. I would decrease the size of government because we got agencies that are existing that have really no purpose. Put more money in your pocket. make it easier for you to buy houses. You can't get mad at me for that. And see, the way I would mess with the states' rights, I would say the states that go to a fair tax will get more federal funding for their highways and their infrastructure than the states who maintain a income tax. Because I'll say, well, if you're going to do an income tax, then you don't need as much federal income for your infrastructure because you already you good, right? I mean, you taking all the money from your people to pay for all these state things when I could give you more from the federal government because we have a national federal tax. You know, I would coerce them through money and popularity to get rid of it. It's like you ain't got to do it. These are the benefits of doing it. These are the pros. These are the cons. Make your choice. And if you want to start something, I got a whole military that'll kick your ass. They complain, but once they see a few years of it in action, they be all right. Now, all the people who are real estate investors who rent properties, they're gonna be mad at me. They're gonna be cutting into their income. And if you just so happen to come up with a better deal than what the states have now with government, yeah, just give them a better deal. Hey, and I'm gonna reverse the federal guidelines for schools. If a community that pays more money in property tax, you shouldn't get more money for education for your schools. It's the schools that don't. I would make it just fair. Every school gets equal amounts of money, not based on uh, who pays more in taxes. I don't even know why there's property tax anyway. Property tax just means that you don't own your property. The government owns it. So just as the same way for veterans who are 100% disabled, they don't pay taxes on their property. At minimum, I will split the baby, right? Uh, Maybe after you finish paying off your mortgage, there's no more property tax, right? I could do as age and say that after 50, you don't pay property tax anymore. Seniors would definitely appreciate that. But also, you should be rewarded if you pay off your mortgage. That would encourage people to buy a house and stay in that damn house and quit moving around all the time. Once you pay your mortgage off, you don't pay taxes on that property anymore. You now own the land, own the property. But then if you sell it and another person picks up a mortgage on it, they then have to pay taxes on that property until the mortgage is paid off. But once you finish your mortgage, you shouldn't have to pay taxes on it no more. Seniors would love me. And if I was running right now with the number of baby boomers out there who are aged, oh, they would be like, oh, what? This $1,200, this $3,000, $5,000 that I don't have to pay in taxes. Oh my gosh, really, son? This is what we doing? All right, I need another cloud. One of you clouds, get on over there and block that joker. Yeah, I would get rid of that. Shit, I can't see what y'all saying. Cloud, hey, cloud, get over. Come on, come this way. Over just a little bit, right, right. Come that way. Trying to find a good angle. Who was talking about you? Okay, King Solomon's wisdom. Are these messages delayed? Yeah, I get your messages like maybe a minute after. It's like a minute behind me. That's StreamYard works that way. It's always going to be delayed for about 30 seconds or something like that. Mortgage is one of the best scams. Yeah, but most people don't do like they did back in the day, where they saved up the money and buy the houses outright. Or a lot of African countries, they're starting to go into mortgages now, but back 20 years ago, a lot of countries didn't have mortgage companies at all. You had to just buy the house. But the cost of housing has went up so much, you got pretty much have to have a mortgage. But going off the gold standard really screwed that thing up. Cloud, you went the wrong way, man. Let's see if I can cover this. I can see it. Okay. I have to get too close to see it, so I need my glasses. It, if it were up to me, the central government would move from DC to the middle of the country, as would Wall Street. Then statehood would be a thing of the past, and I would introduce regional provinces to provide better government those regions, reducing the number of political characters in each region that are a waste of tax dollars, like those so-called boards and committees that seem to kill all positive changes that have been proposed over the years. I could go on. That's interesting. Now you gonna start a civil war. You getting rid of people's statehood. You gonna cause a civil war. Property taxation without legit representation. Umbrella. Shit, Brian W. You gonna cause a damn civil war with that one. People love to have they state legislatures. Oh, you gonna be? They gonna impeach you. They gonna ask for your removal. But I understand what you're saying. But how much of a difference would that be to have regional provinces and states, unless you're making these huge provinces that are like, because you still got 80%. I think it was like 80% of America's population lives on the East Coast, east of the Mississippi. So they're still going to represent more. Thank you, Mr. Cloud. You listened. The other one didn't want to listen. I appreciate you. The other one went the wrong way. You came the right way. Do a lot of people in the States think there's going to be a civil war or what? Most people in the United States don't think that there's going to be a civil war. Oh, Brian, what? You're in South Africa, right? There's somebody else on here in from South. They're in Johannesburg. Most people don't think that there's going to be a civil war. Just a loud minority who thinks that there will be. School programming that encourage learning interests and help for those behind to catch up. Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. Gone somewhere, Mr. Watts. We are not friends. Okay. So Brian's in Cape Town, and somebody else was saying they was in Johannesburg. Get connections in this joint. Yeah, I would completely revolutionize school. I would put trades. Yeah, David, he's in uh, Johannesburg. Y'all are right behind each other in comments. I would definitely put trades back in the schools. These kids who are not equipped to go to college or have the desire to go to college should be able to walk out of school in things like IT, in things like um, welding, all your craftsmanships, you know, mechanics, mechanical, we got to, college has become too much of a business instead of being a process of education to get people into better jobs. So we will put all those trades back in the schools. Uh, from ninth grade up to graduation, you're going to learn about personal economics and macroeconomics. You're going to understand how to build budgets and save and all that kind of stuff. Uh, how to invest. You're going to learn about buying a house, buying property. All those sorts of things are going to be part of the program. Because right now, in like in Georgia, most schools don't have any of those trades in them anymore. You now have to, if you want to become an electrician, you got to pay to go to a electrician school, go to a plumber school, IT schools. These things should not. They should be taught in high school. Kids should be able to graduate with that. You should be able to graduate. America is such a country of wealth that you should be able to graduate high school and acquire a job that pays you the median income in America, which is around 54,000. If a person just want to be a dumbass and don't do any of those things, then that's on them. Put God back in the schools? Oh hell no. Mm-mm. Religion would have no place in school at all, not even a little bit. If anything, I put religious studies in schools and teach the true history of these religions. But nope, religion ain't got nothing to do with schools. It wouldn't even I wouldn't even put religious studies in school. Religion is something you go home. That's between you and your parents, between that individual. There will be no religious studies. I put arts back in school. They need to learn how to play instruments and all that stuff. They need to understand frequencies and harmonies. I'm putting that back in school. But no, we're not going to have religion in school. But I think your first comment, Adolfo, so Grand Rising, Adolfo. But no, we're not having any of that. That would be one of the worst things you can possibly do is put that in school. It's amazing to me how people think that religion not being in school is the reason why we have crime. No, we have crime because people economically are struggling and suffering. That's why we have crime. Well, let me rephrase it. That's why we have crime at the rates that we have crime. We're always going to have crime, but economics play a much larger role in crime than religion. Go to a jail, do a survey. Go to a prison, do a survey, and find out how many what religion those people in prison claim. The overwhelming majority are going to be Christian, and then behind that is going to be Muslims. I know. I think you, Brian B. I don't think most people look at the title of this page before they come on here. Yeah, I put the engagement skills, get you into learning some stuff. Like my son took entrepreneurship in school. I was appreciative of it, but at the same time, I was like, this school curriculum sucks. They ain't teaching you what you need to know. I teach you what you need to know about entrepreneurship. Uh, they teaching you macro entrepreneurship. They're not teaching you the micro stuff, which is the thing that you really need to know. Remember that movie Back to School, and how the professor was teaching these macro, but the Rodney Dangerfield character was like, "Oh hell no! You got to pay for this. You got to pay for that. You got to pay for this. Pay for that. Pay for. You got to bribe this person. You got to do that. You got to do this." That's what they need to know. Religion teaches you not to be accountable for your actions. Grand Rising. Yeah, exactly, Mike. When someone already paid for your mistakes, why should you have to? Why should you care how they live? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, Brian. Oh, the crime in Dubai is really low. It is really low in Dubai because the average Emirati is doing very well. The average expat in Dubai is doing very well. Their crime rate is extremely low. And fuck it, let's look. I think I researched that some time ago and found that and saw that. What is the crime rate in Dubai? The crime rate in Dubai, the average crime rate is 12.35, which is very low. Problem with people using drugs, 18.27, very low. Crime rate with vandalism and theft, 16.44, very low. Assault and armed robbery, 12.06, very low. Corruption and bribery, 24.33, that's considered just low. Car stolen, 10.53. Mug and rob, 13.01. Yeah, crime rate in Dubai is very low. Being subject of physical attack because of your skin color, 14.07, low. Property crime, 16.5, low. Their crime rates are much lower than everything else. The safety of walking around during the daylight is 91.14. The safety of walking around at night is 83.05. Bet you it ain't like that for Atlanta. Yeah. And it's economics. Oh, you're referring to Mike's comment? Okay. Yeah. Now, another reason why their crime rate is low because they got real punishments. You steal something, they're gonna cut that right hand off. And here's the thing about cutting the right hand off. There's still the practice of using your right hand. I mean, using your left hand to wipe your ass. Right? Some people still practice that in Dubai. Still part of their cultural mentality in the Arab countries. They progressed, but still a cultural thing. This is why when you go to a briefing, when we had our briefings going into those countries, you never extend anyone your left hand. That's an insult to them because of what the cultural thing of the usage of the left hand. So the right hand was cut off because of that. You know, you're gonna add further insult to injury. So it's like, no, they cut that motherfucking hand off. When I escorted this guy to a Turkish prison, and I saw that prison, Turkey got real prisons, prison like a champ. Hmm. There's another country I want to look up. Crime rate in Norway. It's either Norway or Sweden. Ooh, that's a little France. That's not a good one. The reason why I was looking for Norway or Sweden is because it is Norway or Sweden. Religion plays a very small part of their civilization, their culture. But they have, but they are. Everybody want me to add cookies. I'm not adding cookies to my stuff. The crime rate in Norway is 31.29, which is considered low. But they don't have all these religious convictions that we have crime rate in Sweden. I knew it was one of them. Per 1,000 in the population, their crime rate is 1.08. 1.08. So tell me again how we need to have religion in school when you got a crime rate in 2021 that is 1.08. Evidently, religion is not playing too much of a, doesn't show that it has anything to do with it. Their murder rate is 0.89 in Sweden. Where the American murder rate is 15% more than theirs. Yeah. So we can dispense with that thought process of putting religion in the schools because it don't help. A video of the oligarchy leaked with them discussing keeping the unemployment high so they can take advantage of exploiting desperate people. Where any rate below 3% is outstanding. Exactly. Yep. And that was another thing. There are no private schools. Everyone learned the same curriculum, and they encourage free thought and expression through art and music. That's why you got to put art and music back in school. It's the frequency of music and art causes the mind to think. Like, uh, let it be known that your guy used to play music and used to be in the arts, whether it was poetry or drawing. I'm still pretty decent at drawing. Never really got good with painting though, but drawing got pretty good in that one. It does. There is something about it. It creates that creativity in your brain where you have to think through stuff. They learn in groups of all ages. I didn't know that part. Right, and they don't push their citizens to. Consumerism is not a as big of a deal in Sweden. Where this video and the oligarchy leak, where in what country are they talking about? Boondocks. Yeah, you don't have to have all that. We don't need those things. Religion is more of a hindrance to the creative mind and to critical thinking uh, than almost anything else on the planet. I would say the only thing that is right up there with it, if not beyond it, is racism. Racism and nationalism. Nationalism makes you think that your country is the best, 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 best. Nothing like my country. My country, great. We the best. Our way and our culture is the best. No, it's not. It is all a perspective. My race, my subgroup is the best. No, it's not. Any system that allows people to develop their mind is always going to prove to be a better system. Religion, racism, nationalism doesn't do those things. Right? I would get rid of all that proud to be an American shit. Proud to be me. Proud to be a productive citizen in whatever society I'm living in. Adolfo didn't have nothing else to say, did he? And by eliminating the God from school and public institution allows for one to take credit for things done at the same time, allowing for self-accountability to rise, which changes the narrative of your life. Yeah. You have to do that. You have to encourage people to take accountability of their actions and their thoughts. Like I told you guys before, the first words that I wanted my kids to learn, even I used to say it, I used to sit there and say to my kids consequences more than I would say daddy, say daddy. Actually, I wasn't saying daddy. I was like, say father, say father. But they still said daddy anyway. But it was like, no, I want y'all to understand this word consequences, because that is probably one of the most vital words of understanding that you can have in order for you to grow as an individual. I'm told that recording and playing music at 432 hertz is healthy. Our entertainment industry purposely doesn't use that frequency. No, they don't. But 432 is the vibration. That's the frequency of the earth when it's in a perfect healthy state. When the earth is healing, it's at 532. So any portion of the earth that's healing is going to be at 532. I mean, 528. 528. Music used to be tuned at 432, but then what's his name? Gerber? I think his name is Gerber. He changed the frequency to 440, which is a disruptive frequency. And that was adopted by the music institutes of Britain and Germany and America and all these other places. So music has since been produced at 440 hertz. When you do produce it at 432, it is better for you. And I've listened, like you can find videos where a person will play a song at 432 and then play that same song at 4 and then retune their stuff to 440. And you can tell the difference. You can feel the difference. If you're in tune, you can really feel the difference. Right. And there are different hertz for different things. I think I played what did I play? I wasn't picking it for any particular reason. But last night, I think we was doing a 741. No, last night we did 10 hertz. Let me see. We did, stop. I don't want your commercials. All these commercials about getting some $6,400. I'm gonna research that. What is this bullshit? Yeah, for 10 hertz, stress relief, anxiety, PTSD. Yeah, EMDR, brain spotting. I prefer binaural beats and cephalagios. Now, Angelina, she likes storms, thunderstorms, all that rain, the rainstorms. So I'll mix it up. But I hadn't been, the last few nights when I was sleeping, I was waking up and my sinuses were inflamed. So I was like, you know what? Let me play something that's more relaxing. And well, it wasn't that. I was waking up a lot. So I was like, I need something that's going to be more relaxing and meditating. So I did 10 hertz last night. So you're not used to all this political stuff here. Every now and then I do some political stuff, but it's usually how we can make it better. I don't get into like, oh, what's going on with the Speaker of the House and, you know, Biden this and Trump that and all this stuff. Is usually conversation that how we can make things better. Oh, but we getting long in the tooth. It is 3 hours. We have passed the 3 hour mark. The coffee was so good. Oh. So thank you, Angelina, for researching on YouTube to figure out why that thing, the grinder, wasn't grinding. Because one day without coffee is one thing. 2 days, oh, I'd be on here cussing. What the hell? Which is why classical music is recommended while babies are in the womb, also during nap time for children. Yes, and that is something that I did. Um, you know, when during the pregnancy, I played classical music a lot, and when they were sleeping, I played classical music a lot. And I was, but then I did switch some of that in. I did put in some cephalagios and binaural beats when they were sleeping as well. Uh, and hey, that plus good diets and exercise, my kids never, they hardly ever got sick. That's why shit, working for myself. That's why I did those high deductible insurance programs. I was like, these jokers ain't going to the doctor. I'm paying $154 a month for health insurance. I keep enough eye on geopolitical things to know when I need to go into escape mode and get the hell out of this country. But we're gonna get off here. Uh, we, as always, we went way, 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 way away from the subject matter at hand. So if you're watching, if somebody watches this, if whoever you watched it this far, if you're watching it now, put it that way. If you want to hear the first subject matter, we talked about why blacks are Mormons and the reason why they shouldn't be in the first 45 minutes, first hour of it, and then we went into all kinds of other discussions. So for those who came late, like LaQuinn, that's where you're going to get that information. CEOs say we need more unemployment. I'm gonna check. I'll look that up. That's interesting. Um, I know some people want us to go back into another. What's the thing that we had during COVID? Because they're like tired of this bullshit. Yep, thunderstorms are good for sleeping. But yeah. So anyway, we finna get off here. Uh, Angelina's already at home, so we finna go do something. I don't know what we're gonna do. We're gonna do something. So y'all have a great day. Probably gonna find some. Knowing her, we'll probably either tomorrow we're supposed to go over to a river and chill out next to the river. So I don't know what we're gonna do today. Yeah. Did I just see? I just saw my mom on Sunday, so I don't know what we're gonna do. Anyway, so y'all have a great day. Remember, always you gotta free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Keep sharing all the videos. You guys sharing has been great, been phenomenal. I appreciate it. So keep sharing all the videos as you have been. Keep liking, keep commenting. Your commenting are great because that the commenting and the sharing causes the algorithm to be shown on to more people, which helps us to get more people involved with our conversations, and that's what we need. We iron sharpens iron. We have people who are close to each other. I didn't know Lance was in Smyrna, so if Lance reaches out to me, we're gonna go and hit some golf balls. But that connectivity is something that also helps us out. You know, I don't know how far away Cape Town is from Johannesburg, but it would be cool to see David and Brian B, get together, and you never know what comes out of meeting someone and networking with someone. At the minimum, you have a great time. At the maximum, y'all create a partnership that changes the world. So I look forward to more connections between y'all. So y'all have a great day. Remember, always got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good vibrations, good journey, good vibrations, and I am out.